everyone. Heart on Fire podcast on Maui, Santos. And I'm here with an absolutely stupendous, marvelous guest today. Her name is Jesi Stracham. You may have seen her throughout her journey or not. And if you haven't, you are in for a absolute delightful treat. Without further ado, because we're going to uncover the bio, what is and has become Jesi Stracham. Jesi, welcome.
Maui, I'm so grateful that we could finally connect and
100%.
do this.
I am so grateful that you're here. To even get here, that's going to be a little bit more of a loaded question. Let's kind of just trail back to, how we met, because I think that's also part of your journey.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about Talent Inc.
So I got involved with Talent Inc. when I got signed to Evolution Talent out on the East Coast. And they sent me to this acting class with Talent Inc. And I did like a 3-week intensive boot camp. And then there's this whole event called the Showcase, Talent Inc. Showcase in Orlando, Florida. And you perform whatever craft it is, whether it's modeling, runway, acting, and then a bunch of agents are there and you potentially get signed. And that is where our paths crossed.
Absolutely. Shout out to Fran and Rachel, just FYI. They're like amazing. What was it about that journey that like made it so inviting for you?
So I always wanted to be in film, didn't know how to make it happen. And it wasn't until I became a wheelchair user and realized that about 3 to 5% of the people with disabilities that you see in film and television actually have a disability. So they're hiring actors to play disabled people. And I said, why is this when there's so many of us that are talented? Let's figure out how to do it and get them out there. And so representation starts with us. And I was like, I guess I had to put my wheels through the door and make it happen.
Like literally?
Literally.
Just before we get ahead of ourselves, becoming a wheelchair user, that obviously wasn't part of your entire story. How did you end up in a wheelchair?
So I want to back up a little bit to my recklessness, right? Honestly, from
you reckless?
Me, an unproductive reckless.
Wow.
Yeah, not a good one.
No.
Now it's a good one. So much in the beginning it was not. So through my teenage years, I made a lot of mistakes, as a teenager does. A lot of that's going to be in my book that's coming out later this year. I just really kind of get raw and honest about the decisions I made, the way I gave my body away, and how just truly I didn't have any self-respect. So then I hit my early 20s, lost all contact with God, became an atheist, had a boyfriend who I cheated on regularly. And then we split up, go to his grandmother's funeral, pastor's speaking. I feel a warm calmness come over me. And I just knew everything was going to be okay. And I thought it was with Granny's passing. The next day, I'm in a motorcycle accident. Oh. A woman made a U-turn into the bike I was a passenger on, and the driver didn't stop in time. So he went through her back window, broke his leg. I went over the SUV, broke my back in 2 places. My chest collapsed. My ribs punctured my lungs, nicked my spinal cord. I have a traumatic brain injury, and I coded twice and had to be resuscitated. So at some point when I coded, I saw my own grandmother, and she told me, Jesi May, it's not your time. You can't stay with me. I can't stay with you, but you have things to do and people to get back to. And so this journey was born. Now I'm a paraplegic who just found God, just found faith. And I'm like, well, what the heck's the purpose in this? Yeah. And had I not been saved the day before my accident, I don't know that I would be sitting as the woman I am today.
That's like amazing. I don't know how to even begin to even appreciate everything you just shared, just to turn to God in lieu of your circumstances, like what was it that you can identify, like, this is it, this is my path?
So it wasn't until about 5 years into my injury that I truly gave my entire existence to God. I knew there was a God. I decided to kind of dive into faith, found a church, and like a lot of churches, sometimes the people leading them aren't always the greatest examples. And so I left the church again, but I still maintained my faith, read scripture, practiced communicating with God, having a relationship. And I had a niece commit suicide and I felt jealousy. And then a year later, at the height of the pandemic, June 2020, my cousin commits suicide.
Wow.
And I felt jealousy. And I'm like, why am I feeling jealousy that these people I love are no longer here? I shouldn't feel jealousy that someone's life is over.
Right.
And so I just gave it all to God. I said, I don't know why I'm here.
Right.
I don't know my purpose. I know I shouldn't be feeling these feelings. I'm sad, I'm lost, and I need your guidance. please take my life and do your will with it. And that's when life really changed and really started opening up, and the doors started opening up, and I started getting more gigs, and I started actually acting. And then I got involved with First Form, which is a supplement company that completely changed my life, led me to nutrition coaching, and led me really to where I am now.
That is so cool. Like you said, it's been opening doors. And so like resources have been abundant, it seemingly sounds. And um, how has it been to kind of process all these things? You know, you go from like on the verge of losing your life, and then now you're in living a life of abundance to an extent. So what does it mean to you to just kind of see that stark contrast?
I think when we stop trying to control our narrative and allow things to work for us while we're still out working and making things happen, and allow God to lead our journey and really kind of take us in the direction that He wants us to go, that's when the game changes. When I stop trying to control my paralysis and let that control me and being upset about it, and really figuring out, well, how can I use this as a mission and a purpose to do more and be more and truly live God's will?
Amen.
Game changer. It was a complete game changer for my perspective of how I saw my disability, how I saw myself, and how I saw the world.
That's immense. I love that. And I love the fact that like you're able to process. I don't know like if everybody who would have been in your situation would be able to take it in stride the way you have. And even into this moment, you know, talk about a little bit about the journey of rehabilitating yourself. Because yes, all these opportunities, but you know, you on a personal level, like it had to take a toll on your mental health. You know, can you speak on that?
The first 5 years of the injury were the hardest. The first year was the absolute hardest. I fell on the floor 2 to 3 times a week, and I'd be stuck on the floor 4 or 5 hours until someone got home from work. I had to learn how to get dressed, how to shower, how to go to the bathroom. I have to cath myself every time I go pee, so I stick a catheter inside of me to drain my bladder. Bowel management, trying to figure out how to manage my bowels, to use certain things, to just rely on DigiStem, or which is when you stick your finger in your butt and you literally dig it out. Like, becoming a paraplegic is one of the most dehumanizing experiences as a young adult that I think anyone could kind of go through, because you lose your sense of independence, you lose your sense of self, and everything you thought you knew about the world is completely stripped away and it's gone. And it's like, wow, now I live in a country that's 50% inaccessible. I have to rely on medical supplies just to be able to go to the bathroom. I struggle a little bit to get dressed, to take a shower. If I fall on the floor, I'm stuck until someone gets home to help me up. And so in the beginning, all I could see was what was taken away from me. And a lot of people never leave that mindset. And it wasn't until I found adaptive sports and I saw other people competing and doing all these amazing things, I was like, wow, I have the opportunity to define my narrative and where this goes.
Absolutely.
So I gained 30 pounds in that first year of being sad, depressed, binge eating, did a lot of drugs. I drank all the time. And I found adaptive athletics. I decided to quit drinking. I started eating better, started really being mindful about what I consumed mentally, which is something that a lot of people don't think about. Started unfollowing people that made me feel less than, or that I was constantly comparing myself to. And, you know, no hard feelings, but it's really not, it's not you, it's me. If I'm comparing myself to you and I'm like, oh, why am I not in this place? I have to unfollow you. My current business partner, I unfollowed for a brief period of time because I was like, oh, I feel like I'm so behind, because she was just so far ahead in the fitness space. And I'm like, oh, I'm so far behind. Like, I had to unfollow her because it was just that comparison game. And becoming very self-aware about my emotions, my mindset, and the way I allow things to control me. We are not self-aware enough in understanding these things about ourselves. What's triggering me?
Right.
How are these emotions destructing me? How are they destructing my relationships? That's not only with a spouse, but with your family, with your kids. There's so much that we do on a daily basis that is counterproductive to our bigger mission and our bigger goal in life.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you on like the fact that your support group and the things that you are surrounding yourself, your community, has such a impact to, you know, your growth or the lack thereof. And you did mention about how you're able to take away things that didn't serve you, you know, drugs, alcohol, like being that that's kind of still prevalent in our society. Like what actual steps, like to just say you just stop, like I don't envision it being cold turkey. What is it that you did that allowed you to kind of quit?
With alcohol, I just quit drinking. I do use cannabis. And so that was in the beginning, that was something I used as a crutch to numb myself from the world. I used cannabis to quit smoking cigarettes, so I swapped one out for the other. And then I realized, wow, this is becoming another crutch. And so then I became mindful about, well, are you using it medicinally or are you using it to numb yourself from the world? And I think asking yourself these honest conversations and having these honest talks with you as an individual and being like, you know what, am I using this medicinally or am I using this to get away from life?
Right.
And there came a point where I had that conversation with myself about cannabis. I currently still use it medicinally, typically first thing in the morning and right before bed, because that's gets me through the beginning of the day and gets me through to be able to fall asleep. And then I also, psilocybin. I'm plant-based is what I say now. My drugs are plant-based.
That's a good way of approaching it. Yes.
I don't consume pharmaceuticals except for my bladder spasm medicine. I don't use those type of things for pain and for mood.
Okay.
I don't like the way that they make me feel. I was on them. I do have severe depression. I do have ADHD. I do have anxiety, right? And so I've taken the prescription pills, and that's what I did before I was injured, and I abused them. And it became too much. So I was like, all right, let's find something else that's not as harsh on my body that I can actually manage and not become addicted or abused. And so I found microdosing psilocybin. I don't trip. I've tripped on psilocybin probably like 3 times in my life.
Right.
I strictly use it medicinally. And then same thing with the cannabis. I've come to a place where I'm not using it to numb me anymore. I'm using it actually medicinally, and it's adding value to my life. And I think we have to have those conversations with ourselves with any substance we're taking, whether that's a prescription that your doctor gave you or it's a self-medicating prescription. Are you using this in a way that's constructive, or is it counterproductive to who you want to be and where you want to go?
I like that. I like that you're emphasizing about like your approach on why you use the things you use and what purpose it serves. I see that there's so much value to being able to understand these kind of approaches, because then you'll understand why you're doing the things that you do. And it's easy to say, like, does this bring me value? Is it good for me in my life? Or is it serving a purpose that is counter to what I'm trying to go for? And like you said, to actually take the time to evaluate your situation respectively, like people will be able to move forward and make their, decisions and become the better people that they are meant to be. I know you do a lot. Too much. I mean, just with you as a wheelchair user, like you use muscles that I don't regularly use as often. I mean, just to wheel yourself around, like for the average viewer, like there's a lot of upper body strength that gets like very much undermined. But like, tell me a little bit more about like your strength training in terms of trying to rehabilitate yourself.
So early in my injury, I gained that 30 pounds. No one tells you when you're in inpatient rehabilitation, it's okay to go lift a weight after you get out of the hospital. It's okay to get back to like living a life similar to what you lived before. And so I kind of had to find it all on my own. And it wasn't about until 2 years into my injury, I found adaptive CrossFit, which completely changed my life, because then it led to me doing a obstacle course racing, which is like Tough Mudder Spartan races, which weren't for adaptive athletes at the time. We kind of paved the way for that. And so because I was doing this intense Spartan Tough Mudder races, I was like, oh, I should probably like stick to CrossFit. And so I've been competing in CrossFit since 2018. This is my 3rd or 4th open that I'm competing in currently. And that changed my life, because when I started doing fitness and just integrating fitness into my life, being a wheelchair user became easier. I can lift my 50-pound luggage into the back of my car and not have to ask for help.
Let's go.
I can get myself off the ground. I don't ask for help. And that is the biggest thing, because like I said at the beginning, it's really dehumanizing when you lose all your bodily function and you're now having to ask people to assist you with simple things.
Right.
And so my whole thing was, if I can limit the amount of times I have to be like, hey, Dad, can you help me get this in the car? Hey, do you mind grabbing that? that was the big driving force behind my fitness. And then now it's led, 9 years into this injury, and I'm still recovering. I'm still gaining strength in my legs and my lower body. A lot of people don't realize I was paralyzed from the middle of my chest down. It was a pretty high level injury.
Yeah, that is pretty intense. And I am just still flabbergasted. If you guys ever get to see some of these like Mutter race photos, like, man, like the support that you have in that community is like so moving. Like I'm like, shoot, I need to join one of these mud races.
You should.
Yeah.
It's Tough Mudder changed my life. I've done 15 of them. I've done their 24-hour race 4 times. I've done 6 overnight events and 4 of their daytime events. So I've done more nighttime events than daytime events.
Fair.
And the community is what keeps you coming back, because it's just a big family. You get to see all your friends at every race, and there's the regulars. You meet new people. They see you on course. They're inspired by you. It's really cool.
I love that. No, it sounds really cool. I like the fact that you're building even more of a community that is positioning and posturing you into like the woman you're becoming. I love that you are able to utilize your strengths that was once your weaknesses, and then you're also inspiring others. I know you said you're advocating for like farm and all these other products. Like, how is it that you're building your community outside of those communities?
I think I'm building a community where people feel empowered, disabled or not. And that is my ultimate goal. I don't want to just work with wheelchair users. My favorite thing about being a nutrition coach is I do a lot of it digitally, right? So it's like they see me through a screen. They don't see my wheelchair.
Right.
And that's the best part of it, because now I get to meet them on a common ground. So I specifically, my people that I coach, it's for your busy entrepreneur. I'm like teaching you how to manage your nutrition when you're also managing and building a massive corporation. I think those two really need to go hand in hand, because that nutrition is going to allow you to keep showing up. And people don't emphasize that enough.
Absolutely.
Around the time when I was saved the second time is what I'll call it. When I actually gave my life to God, I lost all my independence. My shoulder health tanked. I wasn't able to transfer. I wasn't able to get dressed. I was just struggling just to be alive, essentially. And I found First Form, started tracking my nutrition through their app, and got some guidance from them, and found out I just wasn't eating enough protein. Something so simple.
Right.
I fixed that number, and within 6 months, my shoulder health turned around.
Wow.
So I was like, how many people are struggling with chronic issues that can be fixed nutritionally?
Amazing. Yeah, no, I believe that totally can be revamped. And obviously, for people to kind of just take into matters into their own hands, and not just rely on their, primary care providers, or to allow it to be like a team building thing, not to just default it to someone else telling them what to do. Like, here's your all inclusive remedy. Let them take a proactive approach to like bettering their health. I think, like you said, is a very great way. And then they feel empowered because they feel like they're actually a part of the solution. And I think that's the big deal. And that allows people to have the end success that they're looking for.
Well, it creates belief in people, right? And what's the biggest thing that holds people back? Their lack of belief in self.
Right.
So if you can show up on something so simple as nutrition, and then maybe a little bit of fitness,
Totally.
all of a sudden you're building this confidence and belief in yourself that you can show up, that you can get it done.
Right.
And you start getting that belief in that space, it's going to spill over in every other space, just like it goes the opposite way as well. If you are putting yourself down, talking down on yourself in one space, that's going to spill over in every other space.
Right.
The words we say to us are the most important. We
Exactly.
do not speak to ourselves with kindness enough.
Not enough. Like, negative thoughts is pervasive. Like, I don't know how many studies or how many people have analyzed this. Like, predominantly, like 80% of our thoughts are like negative. And I've heard somewhere or read somewhere that like to establish a negative thought is like within like 7 seconds. But in order to establish a positive thought, that takes nearly almost double the amount of time. And I'm like, that's crazy, because that means you have to intentionally be engaged and focus on it that much more in order to believe that something positive might actually happen.
100%.
Who would have thought? So yeah, it's just like, it's natural to be negative. It's easy to be negative, but it takes that much more effort to just, be on that positive track, be on a more focused and uplifting.
Be more mindful about what kind of energy am I putting in the world. One thing that I've tried to hone in and focus on, I'm not perfect at it, but it's before any conversation, before something like this, I'm like, what do I want the other person to feel? And I really try to think about that and hone in on that and own that. And that's any conversation that we have, right? It's like, what is my goal? What energy do I want to bring? What energy do I want them to feel? How do I want them to feel through this? And when you start focusing on the other person in that conversation, changes the whole dynamic.
Totally. I agree. 100%. I mean, like, I had the pleasure of even hearing you on like some of your business calls, you know, not trying to eavesdrop, but at the same time, you know, the way you frame your conversations is so moving because you have a way of framing it where you're still lifting people up amidst whatever their mind is like telling them or whatever they're telling themselves. And it just goes to show how much you want to like lift people up, and that in and of itself is something that we can like pass on to other people. And it's not hard, and it's very cost effective too. Yes. Like we don't have to go above and beyond and like buy people like everything in the world. Sometimes it's like our word or just showing up matters a lot to people.
Well, your time is the most valuable currency you have. And so by giving that, you don't have to buy people extravagant gifts. If you just give them your time, you're giving them the most expensive currency that can not be bought.
Right. I agree. It's so good. Tell me a little bit about your nonprofit organization. I know you're like oozing inside about it.
I love my nonprofit. So we were founded in 2016. It's called Wheel With Me Foundation because we want people to wheel with us, all walks of life. Just wheel with us to help make wheelchair users more independent. And our goal is to turn wheelchair users from patients to people because so often wheelchair users are identifying patient first language. And it's like, hey, you're actually a person and you're more than that wheelchair.
Yeah.
So our goal is just to give them tools for independence to help get them off government assistance and create contributing members of community.
I love that. No, that's super. And like, how are people to partake in your nonprofit organization?
So we currently have a street team that our director Brianna is building, where we have volunteers come in and share the mission, share the message. We host quarterly empowerment weeks completely free on Zoom. It's an hour long each evening for a week straight, and there's different topics taught by other members of the community. So you're learning a skill or trade from people that have already been through it. And those are all recorded and reshared on our YouTube.
Awesome.
We have a summer camp for adults in July. It's in Carrabassett Valley, Maine at the Adaptive Outdoor Education Center.
Okay.
And this place is super accessible. It's awesome. We're about to have our third summer camp this year.
Yes.
And our board of directors is built. They're working on fundraising so that we can actually build a transitional community where wheelchair users learn to be independent from other wheelchair users.
I love that. I mean, I'm just still blown away by like all these things that you're building and creating. You know, I'm kind of curious as to, you know, what was Jesi like when she was young? What were your aspirations and goals? Like, were they like where you're at, or was it something different?
When I was a kid, I wanted to race four-wheelers professionally, and there's not much money in that, but I did get to do that. I lived that dream. And then I became a young adult, and I had no goals.
Wow.
At all. I just went to work, and I drank every day, and I cheated on my boyfriend, and we bought a house at a young age, and that's what it was. I partied, and I drank every single day. I had no goals. I had no guidance. I had no direction.
Wow.
So getting paralyzed is the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me because it taught me to be driven. It taught me that I was selling myself short. I was underutilizing the life that was actually given to me. And it gave me a purpose and it gave me goals. And so now I get to be a business owner. I get to have a nonprofit. My business partner for one of my businesses, we launched the first fitness app for wheelchair users by wheelchair users.
Wow.
So we're women owned and operated, both wheelchair users. We have full training programs in there, a private Facebook group, and we're just offering this all encompassing resource for the community. And then over the past couple of years, I've been trying to get away from the disability space and do something to help non-disabled people, because non-disabled people are our allies. They need to see wheelchair users getting after it to be inspired to go do a little more themselves, right?
Of course.
And so I actually just recently bought into a business. It's a longevity and wellness center called Freedom. It's in Lake Norman, North Carolina.
Okay.
We offer cold plunge, infrared saunas, red light therapy, leg compression sleeves. We just started using the Vibex, which helps to reset your nervous system and help everything function properly.
Right
We'll get
on.
into that a little bit. And a
No
hyperbaric
worries.
chamber. But our goal is to help support the longevity of people's health and wellness and just give
Yes.
them a safe space to do that where it's an open floor concept, so no private rooms. So
Okay.
now you're forced to have conversations with strangers.
Mm-hmm.
You're forced to create community, which is what we need in this world right now. We
Right.
need each other, and we need to talk to each other and stop being so closed off. The pandemic really ruined people in that aspect.
I agree. And I feel like these communities, and I'm believing that these communities that you're creating, among others, are going to be able to be a cohesive, start to allow people to like break that mold of being stuck to phones. It's okay to have a conversation face to face.
Right.
So no, I really appreciate this aspirational, goal for yourself. Were there other jobs that you had besides, where you're at now that you used to do?
So from the time I was 17 until 20, right before I turned 22,
Mm-hmm.
I had at least 2 to 3 waitressing jobs at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Always waitressed. And then I worked for an orthodontist. I'm an orthodontic assistant, so I change wires and colors on braces and get to fix teeth.
Right on.
Favorite thing to do. I love to give people a reason to smile. And that's really what orthodontic treatment does. It makes your teeth straight, perfect. You want to smile. It's the coolest job ever.
Right on.
Got paralyzed, left that. And then 7 years into my injury, my dad got COVID. I accidentally gave it to him. Sorry, Dad. And he ended up hospitalized for 3 weeks. And I will never forget the phone call that he made to my mom. I could hear him in tears saying, I don't want to be intubated. I don't want to be intubated. I'm going to die. And I'm like, Dad, you can't die. And then I'm going into damage control. I'm like, Mom, what are we going to do? We can't afford the house without his income. Like, are we going to be homeless? What are we going to do? So
Yeah.
I met this girl on the internet. Her name's Brianna. She's now my roommate, but I met her on Instagram, started working together to take her the next step with her weight loss.
Yes.
She had lost about 30 pounds and had about 70 more to go. And so we got her nutrition dialed in, and she was able to lose that weight in a little less than a year, which was
Awesome.
really impressive. But I was like, girl, you finished college, like you want to move in together. So we started applying for apartments and houses, and we both have disability income, and it
Yeah.
wasn't enough to get approved. And so I'm like, well, crap. What can I do to make money? How can I make money quick?
Right.
Well, I know how to be an orthodontic assistant. And so 7 years after getting paralyzed, I get on Indeed, submit 10 applications, got 2 interviews, got a working interview. That working interview hired me. And the next thing I know, I'm working in an orthodontic office again.
Wow.
As a wheelchair user.
It's like a different kind of upgrade, because it's like now you're like, okay, if I can do this, like there's a lot of things that I could do.
Best thing I ever did. Within the first 3 months, my values and morals were pretty tested. The doctor, so we were owned by 2 doctors. So they hired an associate doctor. He got fired. And the office manager had me still working on patients' teeth, which is highly illegal with no doctor in the office. It was a moral test. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I refuse. I'm not doing anything that can move the teeth. I'm not rebonding attachments. I'm not doing any of this with no doctor in the office. So I went and worked at one of our our owner's offices. The next day, she's like, oh, I have an emergency wire clip. It wasn't. It was another attachment rebond. And I told the dude, I'm like, I'm sorry that you made a trip here. I can't do this. It's legal. I'm not doing it.
Right.
And I put my notice in. And I explained to the doc. I called the doctors. I said, look, this is what's happening. I kept my mouth shut because she was about to give birth a week later. And I'm like, I can't like just make this woman out of a job.
Right. No,
But then I'm like, no, I told you I was uncomfortable doing that, and you still did it. So I told on her.
Yeah.
And she got fired. The new office manager came in. I had another job lined up and everything. I'm like, dang, I'm better at what I did now as a wheelchair user than I was before.
Right.
But they talked me into staying, ended up giving me a raise, and I ended up being the clinic manager within 3 months of working there.
Wow.
And I worked there almost another year before I broke my spinal fusion in my back and had to have another surgery.
You're like, if that wasn't enough, just compound that.
Right. So I was working 40 hours a week. And it is the greatest thing I did because I realized how much I was selling myself short. Like, because I identified, oh, well, because I'm a wheelchair user, I can't do that. Because I'm a wheelchair user, my body can't handle that. I was accepting all these narratives that I was hearing from the internet and support groups and my family and therapists and other people I accepted those narratives as my reality, and they weren't true.
Right.
And that's when I realized other people's opinion of my life and what I can and can't do is just their opinion,
right,
unless I give that opinion power.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did for so long. And so going back to work 40 hours a week, I was like, cool, off government assistance now.
Right.
And then it gave me the confidence after I quit my job because I had to have surgery. And I was like, well, I'm not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I went all in on me. I went
Amen.
all in on my coaching, all in on my businesses.
I love it.
Best decision I ever made.
That's so good. Like I totally give that so much credit because, you know, obviously we can go to different people for, you know, advice, and being that you're a believer, you obviously, you know, say your, you know, conversations with the Lord. But I also really affirm and believe that what you say to yourself is definitely so much more power that people take away from themselves and allow others take away their own power. And it just subtracts from the potential that they have for themselves. And I really resonate so much with that.
We are so excited to come to LA all the way from the East Coast for the Abilities Expo hosted at the LA Convention Center from March 15th to the 17th.
There's going to be so many cool things you can look at. There's going to be adaptive vehicles, programming you can get involved in, and a ton of other things. We can't wait to share it all with you.
Come see us at the WellSpec booth and, you know, maybe we'll take a picture and smile together. Something like that. Come to the Abilities Expo, open your mind, see more things as far as what's available for people with disabilities. I think everyone has somebody in their family that either uses a wheelchair or might need a mobility aid. And this place is your one-stop shop for everything. We can't wait to see you.
So I'm so happy that you are able to transform your life from a life where it felt like there wasn't much to do to something where it's like now you can tap into anything.
Like now I have too much to do.
Right. So you got such a full plate on your hand.
Well, the big difference is I asked God for guidance.
Mm-hmm.
I asked God rather than me trying to manhandle my life. I was like, yo, God, I need you to manhandle my life. Come help a girl out.
Right.
Because I need your help right now.
dig it.
He was like, oh, bet. I've been waiting on you. I've been waiting on you, my child. And when I gave my life to God, my life took off in ways I never thought possible. But when that happens, a lot of people, they wait for God. They wait for God to show up. You still have to put in work. You still have to be putting in the effort because God's not going to show up for anyone that's not working.
Right.
And that's just the point blank truth of it. And you're going to have trials and tribulations. Sometimes that's the devil and sometimes that's part of your journey.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless of who it is that's causing these trials and tribulations,
right,
you need to accept it, figure it out, and keep on moving forward. Because the minute you stop moving forward is the minute you stop on the mission.
Yeah.
And if you stop on the mission, you're just giving up on life. At the end of the day, my favorite person, Andy Frisella, he goes, there's two options in life. Regardless of what option you choose, it's going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
You can choose to work really, really hard and have a hard life and get the benefit in the end. Or you can choose to do nothing, have a really hard life, and have no benefit in the end.
Right.
Which one do you want?
No, totally. It should be obvious, but sometimes some people have to ponder a little bit longer than others. A lot longer, a little bit, who knows. But no, I really resonated you trying to have this kind of guidance and to be able to rely on your faith to kind of keep you moving and you know, having that as a stronghold and your firm foundation. I'm like very much, you know, happy to hear that from you, you know, from a believer to another. And it just means a lot to just hear how much you've transformed from your faith, from, you know, not ever believing in any entity, being atheist, and then now believing in God. And your faith has been like such a journey just to watch and unravel. You've even traversed into like establishing even more beyond what God has given you. Have you established any newer businesses beyond your?
Just the newest one's the Longevity and Wellness Center that was February of 2024. So that was like pretty new.
Yeah.
My business partner came on for the fitness side of things because I had a fitness app in 2022. We launched. And when she kept saying, oh, I want to do an app, like this girl is it for wheelchair training.
Yes.
I'm a nutrition person. I'm not a personal trainer.
Okay.
That's not my specialty. I can program, but Nikki's just it for programming. And I'm like,
Right
oh
on.
my gosh, if this girl starts an app, I'm screwed. I literally looked at Brianna and I said that at
Yeah.
one point. I was like, if she starts an app, I'm screwed. So I was like, I went to this coaching event last year, and it was like God was speaking through one of the speakers because they kept saying collaboration. Why are you competing? We got to work together. And I'm like, man, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but Nikki and I are going to work together.
Right.
And then after I broke my spinal fusion, I did a mental grit development program called 75 Hard to prepare for surgery because I knew 3 weeks after surgery, I was given a keynote to the Ticket to Work program in Social Security Administration. So I'm like, I'm having a major spinal surgery where they went and removed, I think, 10 levels of spinal fusion metal out of my back and then put new in. Wow. It was a little bit shorter, but they put new in because of where I broke it. And it was my second time breaking it. So this is my third back surgery in 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
really intense. So I knew I had to prepare. And so I got Nikki to do the mental grit program with me. It's 75 days, 2 workouts a day. One of them has to be outside regardless of weather, a gallon of water, pick a diet, stick to it, 10 pages of a nonfiction personal development book, 1 progress photo, no alcohol, no cheat meals. So it's the ultimate like commitment to you. And that's the big thing about it. No deviations, because you never commit to you at that level. And so it's such a game changer for what it does. And her and I did a week of outdoor workouts together. And Brianna did it with us too.
Right on.
And so we did our week of outdoor workouts together and we got really close. And so like probably we had 15 days left or something. I said, hey girl, why don't we just merge it all? Why are we competing? We're in the same space. We're both part of First Form. Why don't we just merge it all?
Let's do it.
And so we started, that was the start, and we finalized everything in November, and Wheel With Me Adapt Fit was born. And so now we have this joint venture that's serving the community on such a different level.
That's so freaking cool. Yeah, we have Bree in the house. Shout out to Bree. What's it like to be able to have an even closer knit community, like helping you, Bree, on board? How has that kind of applied to your life?
Oh my gosh. Bree moving in with me, like her boyfriend shares her with me, and more I share her with her boyfriend. Is more how that goes. She literally runs our household. If it was not for her, I would not be able to operate and do the things that I do. She meal preps, she does all the laundry, she does all the cleaning. Like straight up, she is my wife that's handling things at home.
Amen.
While I'm out in the world, like waging war on everything and everyone. And she's still running the nonprofit, which is just unreal. The woman's so powerful, and it's been really cool to be a part of her journey and get to watch her grow. Because when she moved in with me, she was still using a slide board to get from one surface to another. She was still going to bed to Kath. She had not drove in 12 years. Didn't even think about driving. Right? Like so many things. She had never saved money. The girl has almost $3,000 in cash saved right now. She knows how to transfer from point A to point B. She can get herself on and off the toilet, on and off the floor. She got her driver's permit and has been learning how to drive since last summer. And now she's working on getting a car. Like the independence factor that I've got to see happen from her, from somebody that's been injured longer than I have. It's been a really cool experience. And I feel honored to get to live with that girl, because she's really the coolest.
I was going to say, I was like, you guys go hand in hand. I was like, you guys are powerhouses. Make me feel, I was like, shoot, I need to brush up a little bit on my like athletic skills, let alone my day-to-day activities.
It's just getting really intentional with your time. And that's what we let everyone else run our time. We let the day run itself. If I don't calendar block, I don't get done what I need to get done in the day. And it's not just calendar blocking, it's actually following through with that like it's an appointment.
Right.
And then, I mean, it's time management 101, but that truly is the easiest way to control your day. And if you can control your time and your day, you'll be able to get the things done that you need to get done.
I love that. No, that's a very encouraging tip. Apart from that, I was going to say, I was like, you do a lot of things, but what do you classify as your fun hobbies, if you will?
Fun.
Yeah, I know. You're like, just living my life is fun.
my life is really designed to, I enjoy the grind of being an entrepreneur. Even the crap where I'm like, how are we going to pay rent this month? How are we going to make this happen? Right? I'm like, it's a game.
Game on.
Life is a game. And at the end of the day, I want to win that game. And so I know that the more intentional I am with my time, the more I can get done. Like writing my book. I had an editor publisher that was helping me. She helped me for 2 years. And then I found out that she was a farce and everything she had told us was not true.
Wow.
And that her writing was not good. And so I ended up having to end that relationship and start over from scratch. She had a whole manuscript. We were that close.
Wow, that is intense.
And I had to start over from scratch. So I literally just brain dumped for probably 8 months in a Google Doc. And I just brain dumped every story I could think of, everything. And I met this editor who I worked with on some magazine things for Tough Mudder. It was New Mobility magazine, some adaptive stuff. And then we worked on a book for the nonprofit together.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you're it. She had been following me since 2016. She's got to see my whole progression, my journey. I'm like, there's no one better. And so she just got into the doc and just started putting chapters together and editing it. And today I finalized through chapter 11 of 34. So we're about a third of the way through our finalizations of the first draft. Yeah.
I'm here for it. I can't wait for it to be released because you guys come on back on the podcast at another time.
It's very real, very raw, very honest. And I think that's the biggest thing from the very start, because I'm a social media influencer. I hate that. I'm so much more than that, but I am an online presence, right? Mm-hmm. And my whole thing with my platform is I never want to be fake. I never want to come off like I'm not the same in real life.
Right.
And my favorite comment I get is like, you're even better in real life. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for that. You're like, you're just the same person, but better. Yes. Because I'm honest. I talk about
real.
Right. I mean, I talk about the things that people don't want to talk about. Like
my biggest do.
Right.
Yeah.
My biggest thing is like being alone is the hardest thing for me. Not having a partner to share my life with, to celebrate with. Like, because my life is really cool.
Yes.
And I get a lot of wins. And Bree's really filled that space, but it's still not 100% the same.
Kind.
Yeah. And so that's been my biggest struggle. And if I'm having a hard time with it, I go live and I talk about it and I'll cry. I have a meltdown.
I think I might have cried with you. Yeah. But it's cool.
Right. You're like, oh, this is so, I feel this. Right. Legit. And like on the paralysis side, I talk about bowel bladder issues. I talk about peeing yourself and pooping yourself and having to deal with that and how to manage it and how to clean it up and like make life easier. Right.
Right.
Because if no one's willing to talk about those things, no one's going to learn.
Right.
And I just don't want anyone to be in Brianna's situation where you don't even find community for 11, 12 years until you've been paralyzed.
Right.
All of the things she could have done up until that point before, because when you're seated, your body does start to deteriorate. You get bone density loss. You have these issues that arise. And as you age, it's hard to do the fun things like Tough Mudder and adaptive sports and high impact sports. And so I want people to get that early on.
Right on. No, I like that. And I know that you do what you can to kind of support others and uplift them in whatever situation. And I do commend you on that, because I do see you on some of your lives and you're just like, people like, wake up, smell the coffee. Like this, if you think my life is just like perfect, it's not. You're like, you just call it like it is. And you're like, if I make it look easy, you're like, what you don't see is all the work, even when we do get to see your work, where you're actually like showing people like when you have to get off your chair and then you have to do these workouts, but it's not that you have to, but you get to, and you get to empower yourself and do all these workouts where anyone else would be like, dang, is she doing that all by herself without anybody helping her? And you're like, yeah, bro, like I've been doing it, but like it took time to get to those steps. So I'm just like so like in awe of your journey, of like how vulnerable you have been about being able to showcase, the good, the bad, the ugly, like there isn't exactly a perfect cutout about how you to live your life, but what you've carved out for your life has been such a stepping stone for not only yourself, but for others to like lift themselves up and know that it's so possible and they can turn their life around. So I'm so grateful for people like you.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the whole goal. It's so funny. Last summer, we drove to St. Louis from Charlotte, North Carolina. It's about a 12-hour drive. And halfway through was this beautiful waterfall in Tennessee. And I was like, cool, we'll camp there. So Bree sleeps in the backseat of the car. I have a 1-person tent. I put this tent up. We found this fish camp in the middle of BFE, Tennessee. We go to this waterfall and I look at the map and I'm like, oh, this trail would take us there. It looks rather easy. The trail was not easy. It was a straight downhill. And then when you get to the bottom, it was right back up top. And then you come out and there's these steps and then the main road. And we found out the main road would have took us to the same place because you still had to go through another trail like that to get to the waterfall.
Yeah.
So we spent 3 hours hiking down this hill with roots and rocks. And Bree yeeted herself out of the chair at some point, like no lie, face planted out. Her phone went down the trail. It was a whole thing.
Wow.
We get to the bottom and we're wheeling back up and we're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be really crappy. And this group of non-disabled hikers goes by us. And they're like looking at us like we have 3 heads because they're like, what are 2 like girls in wheelchairs doing out in this trail that's just intense? And like they knew the trail we just came from as far as the downhill. And they're just like, how did you guys get here?
Yeah, like did somebody just dropped you and planted you here and be like, good luck?
But if you're not willing to learn the wheel skills, take the risks, you're not going to get to experience life.
Right.
And just because I use a wheelchair doesn't mean I shouldn't get to experience life.
Right. No, I totally agree. I would say, what would be your most achieved opportunity being where you're at that you didn't think that you were able to do, but you did?
Recover. Yeah. I've about 5 years of my injury, I started recovering, regaining sensation. But I'm telling you, God shows up in some mysterious ways in your life. He brought me into this wellness facility and I was like, I want in. And then 3 weeks later, the opportunity comes to buy it. And I'm like, I'm in. So I'm one of the 3 owners now. And we had a chiropractor come in and he had this vibrating plate and he's like, yeah, it resets your central nervous system and allows the nerves to communicate properly. Well, I started recovering 5 years of my injury. I'm like, so the nerves are communicating, just not right. So I've been sitting on this thing for the last 4 weeks and I've regained a lot of sensation and movement.
Amazing.
To the point of I stood on my flight here.
Yes.
To be able to pull my pants up and down in the bathroom, which was a complete game changer.
Absolutely.
And I always said I had to go back and look at some old social media posts for the book. And the one thing I always said that was a consistent was I will walk again. I will walk again. And in some point in my injury, I gave that up and I just stopped thinking about it. Because I truly am okay being a wheelchair user. I don't have to walk to be happy. I'm fine living life this way. It's not a bad thing. Society makes it be a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. But I'm having the opportunity to recover. And so I'm taking it. I've regained full sensation as far as hot and cold in the front of my legs, which is crazy.
Awesome.
Having the ability to push off my right leg and to be able to stand. Just the small things we don't think about that can improve quality of life. My sitting balance has completely changed.
Totally.
I'm so much more stable. Being able to give people a hug with both hands and not falling into them right away.
Yes.
Or not having to push off of them to get back into my chair. Game changer.
Wow. I've seen like a couple of your videos when you're doing your physical therapy and actually walking, and I saw you, being able to move your feet. I know that there were some kind of like stabilizers that were on your legs, but I was just like, oh my gosh, it's happening. I'm like, I'm just waiting for that day when I either see it or you tell me, girl.
That's the thing a lot of people don't realize is I was paralyzed from the middle of my chest down. So I had no core control, no hip control, anything. And I had what was called a complete injury where I'm not supposed to recover. And I was truly a complete in the beginning. I had no sensation, had no movement. And it wasn't really until like the 3-year mark where I actually started seeing a little bit, but it was a blip. It wasn't a lot. But then the 5-year mark, things really started to accelerate. And now here we are 9 years in and I'm still seeing return. Yes. I do walk in the leg braces. That's something that I've been able to improve on. Last summer when I did 75 hard, my endurance improved by 14%.
Dang.
Just walking in those braces. And so that's the thing. Like, I think the only limitations are the limitations we create for ourselves. Yes. Are there barriers? Absolutely.
Right.
But those are not your limitations. You allow those barriers to become limitations.
No, totally. I mean, apart from like all these, mind tricks, I was going to say, what do you, highly recommend as far as like nutrition wise that, you were talking about First Form, like how that had transformed you. But besides those little, I wouldn't say cheat codes, but they definitely help. I would say, what do you do or what do you eat and consume that has enabled you to get better?
A big thing was letting go that supplementation was bad. Supplementation is not bad, it's very constructive and productive. So there's like 3 core supplements that I recommend everyone adds in. Number 1 is a low temperature processed protein powder. A lot of proteins are processed with high temperatures or added chemicals. So when you shake a protein and it tastes chalky, or it's kind of nasty, or it makes your stomach hurt, or you get bloated, a lot of times that's because of the way it was processed. And so when it's processed that way, your body can't actually break it down, won't absorb that full amount of the protein, and it just really, it makes it harder for your body to digest it. So you're not getting the full benefit from it.
Got it.
So always look for a low temperature processed protein, which is why I use First Form. Same thing with a green supplement for gut health. You want, like, a lot of people think that greens are just gut health. And like most of the green supplements are, but like your fruits and veggies aren't gut health. We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
But like kimchi, kombucha, sauerkraut, and then tropical fruits, you want to have 2 to 3 servings of those a day. How many people can be consistent with that?
I would want to say a certain population, but that's besides the point.
Right. There are, but it's very minute population. So if you can't be consistent with those foods, there's a very good chance your gut health's out of whack. Your gut health's out of whack, that's your second brain. It's not just the way you digest and absorb your food, but it's also the way that your body produces serotonin, which is your feel-good hormone. 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. 70% of your immunity is produced in your gut. So if you're constantly getting sick or you're constantly sad, there's a good chance you have a gut issue. Fix it. Just proactively supplementing if you're not consuming those foods high in digestive enzymes and probiotics. If you are not consistently consuming 2 to 3 servings a day, go ahead and supplement.
Right on.
And then the next is micronutrients. So First Form offers a micronutrient pack, which is your fruits and veggies. Micronutrients are literally like the oil in your car for your body.
Right on.
So you wouldn't drive your car 100,000 miles and never change the oil, would you?
It shouldn't be.
Probably not. Will your car run the best at that point?
There you go.
Right. Is it going to run good at 100,000 miles if you never change the oil?
Yeah, no, it's not ideal.
So although ideally you want to eat 5 to 7 1 cup servings of fruits and veggies a day, the rainbow in fruits and veggies, very hard to get. The other thing is our fruits and veggies travel. They lose their micronutrient content as they're sitting on the shelf, as they are in travel, and with things that they're grown with a lot of times. Yeah. So by supplementing with a micronutrient pack, you're essentially supplementing your body with the oil it needs to be able to function optimally, supporting your energy levels and your metabolism. So I always recommend, those are my top 3: protein, micronutrient pack, gut health, which would be OptiGreens, Microfactor, and then level 1 protein.
I love it. Yeah. No, your experience in the nutritionist value is just, bar none compared to like what I wish I would have known, moving forward into adulthood. I was like, I kind of want to know a little bit more because I just eat to consume just to like, get energy levels. But I was like not really mindfully aware about all of the effects. But I mean, part of it is a little bit of trial and error because everybody's body's different and reacts different. So I can't say that like, this is good or this is bad because I don't know like what their body type. I don't know how that, parallels off of what I get to consume. So
the biggest thing that I like is I like to see how people track their food before I make any supplementation recommendations, because I want to see, what are your daily habits looking like? How much are you eating? Majority, almost every single person that tracks is under eating on protein. Wow. Protein is, in my opinion, the most important macronutrient that you can consume because it is the only thing that can create muscle and build muscle, repair muscle. If you're under eating on protein, then your body is not creating muscle. If your body isn't having muscle, your metabolism is not functioning optimally. And on top of that, our organs, our skin, our body is made primarily of protein as a macronutrient.
Amino acids, building blocks.
Correct,
totally.
correct. So that's the thing. Protein has amino acids in it, which is why that amino acid complex is your building blocks to your body's function. Not to get too like sciencey, right? No. And so when you're under consuming that, your body's not actually able to function at the level it is, which is why I was having shoulder issues. I was eating probably 30 to 60 grams of protein a day. Now I'm eating upwards of 140 to 150. That's a big difference.
That is
My
huge.
body functions so much better. And so I always say prioritize protein at each meal. If you're not willing to track, you can use the palm, fist, thumb method, which is a palm of protein, a fist of a starch, a fist of a veggie, a thumb of fat. And that's a kind of a good base to go off of for portion sizes.
I dig that. No, that is super. No, I'm amazed about like whatever you've managed to acquire to get this kind of knowledge, and so
Oh, I took
you know,
coaching certifications for nutrition. Like, yeah, I am a certified nutrition coach because this is my
yes,
passion. Food's truly power. People focus so much on the fitness side of things.
yeah,
You can manipulate your body composition solely with food.
mm.
Minimal movement solely with food. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much that is. Like, it's like, oh, I've done everything. I've tried to lose weight, but I'm still skinny fat. Yeah, it's because you're probably under eating on protein, overeating on carbs and fats. Carbs and fats aren't bad either. And that's the other point I love to drive
The
home.
balance of
It's the balance of the numbers. Your body composition is a numbers game. If you want to be lean and toned, prioritize protein. Let's get your macros in check. If you truly want to lose weight and do everything, track your nutrition with a food scale.
I love that.
Game changer.
That is so good. No, I appreciate all this information. I was gonna say, I was like, we dived in through a lot of your journey. Is there anything beyond what we've already tailor-made to this conversation that you kind of want to impart to the audience, that you want to encourage them?
I think at the end of the day, you're the creator of your own destiny. And if you want to live a fulfilled, successful life, it's up to you to create it. Nobody's going to do it for you. And the world's not out to get you. The sooner that you quit playing victim, the sooner that you can get to your dreams. So some habits that I have daily that are really productive to where I want to go. Read 10 pages of a nonfiction personal development book every day. 10 pages is a digestible amount, and you're gaining experience from someone else's life.
Right.
And so now you're creating a shortcut in your own life through certain situations. Best thing I've ever implemented. Get movement every day. Get sunlight every day. Drink water. Prioritize sleep.
Yes.
Those are like my big 5 tips to having a full life and building some confidence and feeling better. Because if you do those 5 things, it's really going to allow you to take life to the next level.
Game changer.
Yeah.
I freaking love that. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Jesi, for sharing your knowledge and your stories and your insight. You're absolute inspiration. I just love to be in your presence and just to be around you. And it's been such a delight. How can we go about following your journey?
Well, that feeling is absolutely mutual. I feel the same exact way. I feel like every time I'm with you, I get a little closer to God, and that's just something that's irreplaceable. So thank you for sharing that energy.
Absolutely. 100%.
If you guys, before I dive into where you can find me, if you gained any value from today, please share it directly with a friend. That's how these shows grow.
Yes.
It's from your share, your support. And so please go give her a rating on whatever platform you're listening on. Go ahead and comment and share it directly with one person. Don't just share it to your Facebook feed. Don't just share it to your story. Share it with one person that can truly benefit from this today. First and foremost, please follow my organizations at Wheel With Me Foundation on all platforms, at Wheel With Me Adapt Fit on all platforms. If you want more nutrition movement advice, you don't have to be a wheelchair user to join our private Facebook group. It's Wheel With Me Adapt Fit as well. If you are a business owner, you can join the Freedom Longevity and Wellness Facebook group, a little different content for the business owners when it comes to staying on top of things.
Totally.
Follow my business, Freedom LKN. That's the brick and mortar store. We definitely could use your support. And then to find me, it's Jesi Stracham, looks like Stracham.
Totally. And we'll have all of those details in the bio. Thank you guys so much for listening and for tuning in. Your support is undeniable, and we love you all, and God bless. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye. Yeah. She done, son. She been done. She done did it.